key presence in the American establishment. He was a member and director of the Council on Foreign Relations. Remember, the Council on Foreign Relations, as I say, is a branch of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. And its goal, its mandate, was to set up world government. This is a private, and here it's called a private think tank made up of America's corporate and social elites, which acted as a kind of shadow foreign policy making unit. Other members included Alan Dulles, John McCloy, and David Rockefeller. During the war, he worked for Nelson Rockefeller's intelligence outfit and sat as chairman of an advisory committee of the Museum of Modern Art in New York. In 1956, he became president of the museum. In that year, he also sat on the State Department's Books Abroad Advisory Committee. So they say they weren't censoring books. In a sense, it's true. They were deluging the market with lots of other kind of books that was to bring down the whole culture of people across the planet. It says here, he also sat in the State Department's Books Abroad Advisory Committee. Former Assistant Secretary of State for Air, he was a financier, special interest in aviation financing. Back in a moment after this break. Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt, and we're cutting through the matrix. We're actually rushing through a book here. And this book is called The CIA and the World of Arts and Letters, The Cultural Cold Wars by Francis Stonor, S-T-O-N-O-R, Saunders, S-A-U-N-D-E-R-S, Francis Stonor Saunders. And I'll try to get in this last little page here. 144. The Rockefeller Foundation, no less than the Ford, was an integral component of America's Cold War machinery. Incorporated in 1913, its principal donor was the legendary John D. Rockefeller III. It had assets exceeding $500 million, not including an additional $150 million in the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, Inc., a major think tank which was incorporated in New York in 1940. In 1957, the fund brought together the most influential minds of the period under a special studies project whose task was to attempt a definition of American foreign policy. Subpanel 2 was designated to the study of international security objectives and strategy. Remember, too, they're also talking, when they say international objectives and security objectives, they're talking about their own wealth taking over the resources of the planet. That should be rather self-evident. It says here, and its members included Henry and Claire Booth Lucy, Charles Lawrence Rockefeller Townsend Hoops, representing Jock Whitney's company, Nelson Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, Frank Lindsay, and William Bundy of the CIA. The convergence between the Rockefeller billions and the U.S. government exceeded even that of the Ford Foundation. John Foster Dulles and later Dean Rusk both went from the presidency of the Rockefeller Foundation to become secretaries of state. So they're all in the CIA and in these foundations at the same time. They still are, by the way. They're descendants. Other Cold War heavies such as John J. McCloy and Robert E. Lovett featured prominently as Rockefeller trustees. Nelson Rockefeller's central position on this foundation guaranteed a close relationship with U.S. intelligence circles. He'd been in charge of all intelligence in Latin America during the Second World War. Later, his associate in Brazil, Colonel Jai C. King, became CIA chief of clandestine activities in the Western Hemisphere. When Nelson Rockefeller was appointed by Eisenhower to the National Security Council in 1954, his job was to approve various covert operations. If he needed any extra information on CIA activities, he would simply ask his old friend Alan Dulles for a direct briefing. It actually says in here, too, when they needed to get anyone on board anywhere, they just look up the membership list of the Council on Foreign Relations and bring them right into it. They were already passed as being safe. Page 145, as important as Nelson Rockefeller's was, so was his brother David. He controlled the Donations Committee of the Chase Manhattan Bank Foundation, was vice president, then president of the bank itself, a trustee of the Council on Foreign Relations, chairman of the Executive Committee for International House, and a close personal friend of Alan Dulles and Tom Braden. I often briefed David semi-officially and with Alan's permission on what we were doing, recalled Braden, who was of the same mind as us and very approving of everything we were doing. In the same sense as I did, that the way to win the Cold War was our way. Sometimes David would give me money to do things which weren't in our budget. So here's the Rockefellers literally paying the agents to do operations which were black ops outside their budget. The Cultural Cold War by Francis Stonor Saunders. Excellent book to show you how it's done. And by the way, it's still being done. And that's the end of the show for tonight. So I'm Alan Watts. And so from Hamish, myself, in Ontario, Canada, it's good night. And may your God or your gods go with you.